Welcome everyone, Evelina here, Feel, Grow, Live. In this episode, we're going to discuss depression. A lot of people don't want to even admit to themselves they're in denial about depression. So when we're talking about survival states, and we talked about anxiety and how the energy is being mobilized, depression is about the shutdown and the collapse of inner energetic resources. That's why it's extremely difficult for a person whose nervous system is in this response of collapse and shutdown to do even the simplest things, right? So things are becoming very difficult. There's very little energy in your system. It's a survival state, therefore it completely hijacks you. You have no say. Again, you're not the boss. If your nervous system has learned the pattern that in order for you to survive the environment that you're in order for you to survive the chronic stress that you're in, or unpredictability of your environment, you need to shut off. You need to just disassociate from the world, then that's going to happen. No amount of mental work, no amount of motivation, no amount of mindset, no amount of exercise is going to change that if you're not going to know why your nervous system goes into depression and goes into survival, right? Depression is an expression, physiological expression of survival mode. And then we have the mind level. Then we have the story follow state. So if your nervous system is in the state of collapse and shutdown, your mind is an extension of that. So the narrative in your mind is going to match that. So I need to hide, I need to disappear, I'm not important, I'm a nuisance, I'm pointless. It's all about wanting to disappear. So it's a no response. In the red mode, where your energy gets mobilized for fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, there is energy. In depression, in the grey mode, there's no energy whatsoever. And then, as I said, your narrative in your head is going to reflect that. And it's going to manifest as negativity, despair, right? And we all know how it ends when it gets really, really dark. Because the thing about survival modes, whatever that is, in the red mode, it's the extremes of the red mode, so the mobilization of energy, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, are panic attack. So physiologically, your body goes into a state where your body cannot contain the energy anymore. It almost like it has to crash, right? That's why people with panic attacks and anxiety attacks end up in A&E, emergency services, because they think, their body thinks, the body knows what it's doing, but your body hijacks you completely. And taken to the extreme, you think you're dying because you've got tightness in the chest, your throat is closing, you don't know what's going on. There's this whole paralysis of a lot of the systems in the body, including your brain. So you can't think rationally, you can't think logically unless you learn to. But your body is the boss. And in depression, it also hijacks you. So it hijacks you into thinking and behaving like there is no option but to disappear, but to hide. And I have a lot of empathy for people in depression because, first of all, it's one of the most misunderstood mental health conditions where we think it's a disorder. We think of it in mental health. You will hear that a lot. It's a disorder. It's a mental health condition. So the way we think about it, the way we conceptualize it in mental health, it's that it's outside of your control. So this is how your body operates. Your body has been told that there's nothing you can do. And I think that is not correct. People are having their autonomy over this taken away from them. And that is not okay. That is simply not okay. And it's not correct and it's not right. And if you're being told that, oh, you have this condition, then that implies that you have no autonomy over this. And I think that is the biggest scandal in mental health. But hear me out. So I'm on the quest to actually let you know, if you're suffering with depression, that first of all, acknowledging and validating it for yourself, that is not a sentence, because we think of a diagnosis like, all right, that's it. There's nothing I can do. There are a lot of things you can do. The trick is, though, to first of all decode why you get depressed, why you are depressed. And for a lot of people, that's very difficult, because if the reason for your depression is in childhood, within your family and within your experiences, so your nervous system has decided, right, that's the best option. Just stay depressed, be depressed. That's a way of keeping you safe, because it's a survival strategy of your nervous system. Then for a lot of people, that's all they know. And you can hear it from people. You can hear it when they say, I'm a depressive person. I've always had depression. My mum had depression. My dad had depression. Mental health runs in my family, etc. So, as I keep on saying, what seems to happen is that your mind builds your identity around your survival state. I encourage you to think about the last time, or like when you felt that you don't have depression. So that would be your green state. That would be your homeostasis. That would be the flow. That would be rest, digest, regenerate, self, safe, and social. And the saddest thing is that a lot of people don't even remember feeling anything other than being depressed. Because in order for you to belong to your family, in order for you to belong to your tribe, not to be kicked out, if you stay depressed, so you sort of fit in with the narrative of the tribe, of the family, right? So think about the last time when you were a child and you felt free from this. That's the state that you are able to recover. The trick is to know what keeps you in there and to start addressing it from a very unique point of view, because it's really important. It's actually crucial. There's no other way about this. For you to know yourself enough to actually determine what will work for you. Because what needs to happen is for your nervous system, first of all, to start feeling safe. So you need to learn your way of letting your body know that the danger is gone. You need to start from your mind, from your authentic self, saying, okay, what is my way of keeping myself safe? So first of all, you need to eliminate or start eliminating things that keep you in depressive state. Things that you do every day that affirm your depressive state, that affirm you being in depression. Your nervous system needs to get the message of safety, because the survival state is like a lens through which we look at the world. So if you have the moments of motivation and energy, that's great. This is where you need to see what gets you there, and you need to determine your triggers and glimmers, right? So the first thing to determine, right, what is the reason for my depression? For you to start processing it like you would normally do in therapy. And I'm a therapist, so I've done it many times with a lot of different people and with myself. So for you to start determining the reasons, so you can at least take control, and at least you can have autonomy over the stuff you have autonomy over. Don't think this is a hopeless, helpless situation. You're not helpless. You are the most creative and organic piece of nature and a miracle walking around. So when you decide that actually I have the power over this, I just need to know how to practice this power, because this is not what we taught. The system is designed in a way to keep you where you are. The system is designed in a way that you keep thinking that's it, right? So there are a lot of different factors which contribute to you being this way. Because remember this, people in survival are the best customers because they're desperate. Anxiety and living in anxious states, it's very uncomfortable, right? It's very difficult for your body to keep all this energy running through your system. And in depression, it's extremely uncomfortable for your animal brain not to feel anything, because emotionally speaking, in depression, you're numb. It's not about being sad. Sometimes it is, and it's the most natural reaction when you lose something, when you lose a job, or when you just have some kind of transition from stage to stage, like you move in countries, sometimes it's out of your choice, but you still feel sad about that. That's not depression. Being sad is not depression, okay? Let's just clarify that. Being sad, it's one of the most natural things. It's the same with joy. We don't have a problem when we feel happy for whatever reason, but we have a problem when we feel sad. Sadness is one of the primary emotions. So the numbness when you are depressed, clinically speaking, you're numb. You don't feel anything. You may have people around you who love you. You won't be able to receive it because your state is your shield. You may love someone, and you may say the words, but you won't be able to actually have the feeling. You won't be able to almost like connect with yourself. Because all in all, all these survival states, depression and anxiety, are all about being disconnected from the true authentic self. And the true authentic self is this idea, it's not even an idea, it's a state of the nervous system, the green mode as I call it. Homeostasis, safe to connect, rest, digest, regenerate, where you can feel all the emotions you are capable of feeling. So joy, inspiration, peace, right? You can feel. In anxiety, all you can feel is fear, some sort of fear, because the amygdala is switched on in your brain and it gets hijacked. The prefrontal cortex gets hijacked and you feel fear that gets translated into frustration, aggression, rage, and all the other things, right? So the states of survival are really the state of disconnection from the self. So when you trying to motivate someone who is depressed, don't bother. That's not about that. Or when you're trying to motivate yourself and then, right? The only thing that you can feel in depression, not constantly, but it's despair, helplessness, self-loathing, because you're judging yourself, because the ego in the survival state gets really active. Because the more in survival you are, the more in the grip of an ego you are. So as the story follows state, the narrative in your head matches the physiological state your nervous system is in, right? And your mind is another realm, is another level of your existence where you have forces that work for you. When you are unconscious and aware of them, right, they really have to take control over you because you're not present with yourself. There's no choices. Like when your mental health it's all over the place, when you're in survival state, there is no choice. You get hijacked. Your body gets hijacked physiologically. Your brain gets hijacked, so your prefrontal cortex, where you've got the executive function and higher thinking processes like planning, organizing, and a lot of different sort of higher thinking things like impulse control, problem solving, short-term memory. That's why a lot of people with anxiety, they can't hold a piece of information for longer than 3 seconds, because that part of the brain is offline, it's switched off. Right? So you can't learn. That becomes the way you look at the world. So in anxiety, it's all fear. In depression, it's all despair, helplessness, or numbness. So it determines the way you look at yourself. It determines the way you attach, if you attach. It determines the way your psyche organizes itself, because your psyche organizes itself in accordance to the physiology of your nervous system. So if your nervous system is calm, relaxed, safe and social, your narrative will be calm, relaxed, safe and social, and your ego will be not in the center, because you're not in survival. So you don't need your ego, because your ego is a power, it's a force within your mind that takes over when you are disconnected from yourself. So when people say, oh, I don't have an ego, like, you want to have an ego. You need your ego. And people talk about narcissistic people, like, that is your survival instinct of the mind. The first level of the game of life is to survive. So you need your unconscious mind to take over, because you can't make decisions. Your nervous system needs to decide for you. We're doing this because this is the most appropriate response in accordance with your temperament, character, or spirit. Yeah, that, or soul. So depending on who you are on the soul level, they will choose the archetype you are. Your soul will choose the archetype for you. On the mind level, you've got the ego. And the ego is very aligned with the type that you are. When you're in depression, you still have the ego. It's just your ego is self-loathing, the inner voice, and it gets manifested by the inner voice, right? You're worthless, you're a burden, etc. That's still your ego talking. That's not the real you, right? So we've got 3 levels here. We've got the body, your physiology, your nervous system, and the state of that nervous system, including the brain. Then we have the mind, the ego, and the narrative about myself, the world, and the relationships, or whatever, the concept of love, money, whatever, that matches the state and matches the type, matches the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or hide. And then we have the spirit, right? So it's really about understanding where you are on this. It's called the autonomic ladder, right? And every state in your mind has a physiological marker in your body, right? And working out where you are on the ladder and what type are you, by various means, either through your body or through your mind or through your spirit, right? And working out how disconnected you are from the authentic self, from the version of yourself that you were able to be before you had to switch on the survival mode, right? Hopefully you have those moments when you think, that's not me. And that's the human spirit talking, because humans are the most resourceful, remarkable, creative species and creatures. So we're talking about the potential, we're talking about your body's ability to heal when you get out of the way. It's the same with your mind. When you get out of the way with your labels, with your diagnosis, with your ideas, with what your mother used to say to you, your sister used to say to you, or the school, or whatever, and I'm talking about negative and positive, because a lot of the times, a lot of people had to survive by performing. So they would be saying like, you have to have, all straight A's and etc. Even though they wanted to go fishing, even though they wanted to go, hunting or whatever, they had to become the version of themselves to belong, because that was the expectation of the tribe. And you do everything to belong to the tribe because this keeps you surviving. So these are really like a biological evolutionary motivations, which we don't think about today. What we're trying to do, within mental health profession at least, what we're trying to do, and I think it's wrong, we think in terms of diagnosis. We take 3 symptoms or 5 symptoms and I think, oh, that's that, and you need this kind of medication and you need this, like, totally wrong. That's never going to work. That's why psychiatry is the biggest scam, if you think about it. I'm not saying there's no place for medication, of course there is. Sometimes that's a saving grace, but that's just part of the story. Your anxiety and depression and whatever you're going through, it's a sign that you have been neglecting yourself and you don't know yourself. Because you didn't have anxiety when you were 2 years old. You had existential crisis every day, but you didn't have anxiety. You were brave, you were explorative, you were curious, right? So this is your natural state before the world told you that you're not, right? So because what we do in the society, we're labeling. We just give labels. That's what we're very good at. And people think, oh, I know my stuff. So this is that. When we talk about the nervous system, your nervous system is listening to you constantly. So if your mind is captured by the ideology of mental health profession, where you have a black and white thinking, like this is healthy, this is not healthy, and they say, oh, you might have bipolar, and then BPD, and then GAD, so generalized anxiety disorder, and then manic depression, which is bipolar, right? So they don't know what they're doing because it's all about labeling. And if your nervous system is listening to this, and your nervous system is listening all the time, even when you're not, so what you're doing, you are overwhelming yourself with excess shit. And let me tell you this, anxiety and depression are the most natural human states. I know for sure actually, that in today's world, if you don't have anxiety or depression, some form of anxiety or depression, you are a psychopath. Because you need to be impacted by all of this, what's been going on. That's your gift. You feel and sense things. So if you say, oh, I don't have anxiety or depression, it scares me. Or when people say, no, I'm fine. Right. So it's impossible in today's world not to have some sort of, because it's fear mongering, we're being scared all the time, there's crisis after crisis after crisis. So obviously your nervous system is listening. Therefore, sometimes the best thing you can do is to disconnect from the media. Works wonders, by the way. But otherwise, if you are exposing yourself to the subliminal messaging that is being actually forced onto people, right? About the war. Just think about it. In every piece of information you are consuming, there's a message. A good example would be AI, right? We're going to be taken over. There's no point in anything. There's no point in studying. There's no point in this. We're going to date robots or whatever, right? It's fucking scary. So they're constantly talking to your amygdala. They're sending subliminal messaging. And to add to that, if you think about mental health, the message is very clear. That's a condition. It's an illness. There's nothing you can do. Here's a medication. You can go to therapy that you can pay for yourself or by NHS or American system, whatever, right? So it's impossible for your nervous system to ignore any of this because your nervous system is there to keep you surviving. So it responds by mobilizing energy for action or immobilizing energy for no action. These are two responses, like there's no other way. And then the narrative in your mind matches this, and then your ego behaves accordingly. So there's a whole persona being built around your nervous system and around your survival states. So you need to be really mindful of this. And I think people should be taught that. I mean, I think it's a scandal that we're not learning that at school. I studied psychology in London, and that wasn't taught to me. I had biological psychology, and it was a BSc, so Bachelor of Science, but that wasn't taught to me. I had a nervous system, but it wasn't really connected with the mental health in any way. It wasn't. So, I put this together, this thing where it's like a comprehensive explanation of why we suffer with mental health. And first of all, mental health is not mental. Mental health is a physiological experience. That's why when you're scared or when you have anxiety, it happens in your gut or in your neck or in your jaw, right? When you're depressed, you're not depressed in your mind. You're depressed in your body. Your body is depressed. But it's called mental health, so people would assume, right, so, it's all about my head, right? It's not. Yeah, your brain is part of it, but it's really almost like it's not the crucial part of the story. It's not, right? But we are obsessed with the brain, with the thinking and rational logic or whatever. Listen, anxiety and depression are not logical. There's nothing bloody logical in this. So it's not like you went through this and that and this, like, oh, you just have depression randomly. No, you don't. No, you don't. Depression and anxiety are not random. And stop treating them like that. And you're going to do yourself a big favor. So, yeah, get curious about connecting with your nervous system. Get curious about where your body is. Am I depressed? Do I suffer from form of depression? Because there are a lot of different forms. Life is an internal experience, so a lot of people just pretend and plays and masks, and that's okay. That's natural, because people feel misunderstood, or when people talk about themselves, a lot of people get really uncomfortable because we need to be positive, right? And we don't know what to do because it's a trigger for a lot of people. If someone lives in survival, and so if someone is anxious and another anxious person comes in, it just amplifies things, right? So that's why when you're training to be a therapist, you need to go to your own therapy first to process your own stuff in order for you not to be triggered by your own stuff, because all the stuff that is unprocessed, all the stuff that is not brought into awareness, so suppressed and exiled from the psyche. I mean, you can't exile anything, you're just in denial, right? You're in denial about your experience. That's what triggers you. Your triggers are your teachers, and they show you the way where the work needs to happen. So, yeah, get curious about your nervous system. I encourage you to buy my course. I have an ABC of mental health. It's called Mechanics of Mental Health. But that's not the only way. If you are serious about this, if you want to address your mental health and you're ready to address it, then please do. I've built it over the years. It's based on many, many hours of my own research as a therapist and sitting in front of really distressed individuals and walking them through the path of deprogramming the nervous system. It's about understanding yourself. It's about self-realization and being self-aware. Because if you don't know what triggers you, you also don't know what calms you down. You don't know what your needs of the nervous system are. And your needs will be very different to my needs. Your triggers will be very different to my triggers. Your glimmers, so the way to calm your nervous system down, will be very different to my glimmers. People don't even know what a glimmer is. So I encourage you to look into the course, first of all. I encourage you to be curious about your mental health and about your experience. Because if you hear someone say, oh, you know, things will be better, you will be all right. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen mental health improving on its own. Sometimes you might have some improvement, but it's random, you don't know why. So would you rather know? Would you rather know what gets you better? And plus, if you don't, this thing will catch up with you. So not addressing your mental health, not being curious about yourself, and not finding out what you are about and what your nervous system is about, you're actually missing out a lot. Not only your creativity is blocked, your productivity is blocked, and it's really fucking exhausting, if you ask me, to live in survival. Because the energy is blocked, the energy is being used somewhere else. When you're in green and you learn to be in green, and when you teach your nervous system to relax and to regenerate, to be in the rest, digest, regenerate state, then everything becomes easier. There's a flow, as they call it. You just at ease with yourself, in your body, in your mind, in your life. Because remember one thing, your external life, it's a reflection of your internal life. So your inner life, it's a lens through which you look at the world. So if it's messy, dark, unprocessed, and you avoid it, then the external life will be reflected in your relationships, in the way you relate to people, jobs, concepts, animals, etc. Right? So this will determine your attachment style, how you are, and you will build the whole identity around this. The only way out of this, the only way out of the chaos of your mind is to actually inquire about yourself, to do an inquiry about, yeah, what's this about and what's the meaning behind this? Because you are a meaning-making machine. You know that question that children ask too much? Why? When was the last time you asked it? You shouldn't ever stop asking why. You shouldn't ever stop being curious about yourself and others. And if you do, and if you learn to overcome discomfort when it comes to working on yourself, everything will improve, because the relationship with yourself, and sometimes that act on its own, like, okay, what is my anxiety trying to tell me? What is my depression trying to tell me? That actually puts the fire out. When you start paying attention to yourself, when you start dismissing yourself, gaslighting yourself, oh, that's not important, that doesn't happen, or, you know, it doesn't matter. When you stop doing that and you actually pause and get curious, and you start treating yourself like you exist rather than you keep neglecting yourself and your need, like, this in itself calms the anxiety down, and it gives you a bit of life when it comes to depression, because the numbness in depression is really uncomfortable. So a lot of people in depression will do some really harmful stuff just to feel something, right? Because you are a feeling being, right? The emotion is really important for you, for your existence. So yeah, get curious about yourself. Stop neglecting yourself and your needs, and get to know them. So know your patterns, and then you will see the magic happens. Because the minute we start being curious about yourself and bring awareness into our experience of every day, a lot of things just dissolve. When you stop worrying about other people, and when, like, what they think, what they do, like, listen, like, no one cares. No one cares, right? So whatever is the reason for your anxiety or depression, whether it's in the past or in the present, the protocol and the way forward is the same. Starting small and practicing self-awareness when it comes to your body and your nervous, and connecting with your body in the moment, and asking yourself, right, so what do I feel and how do I feel? How am I? There are a lot of practices. We're not being taught that. The world we live in is all about distraction, entertainment, and further disconnection from the self. So it's your job to actually start reconnecting with yourself. And I don't know what that is. No one will tell you what that is, but keep trying. Is it breath? Is it walks? Is it lying on the ground? Is it yoga? Is it running? Is it gym? Is it whatever, right? But that you need to find a way to reconnect with your body. Yes, breath is like a bridge. If you're really traumatized, being in your body is extremely uncomfortable because you have survived by disconnecting, disassociating from your body. If you've been ignored, if you've been abused psychologically, emotionally, sexually, or physically, you survived by disassociating, right? And disconnecting from your body. So connecting with your body, again, because it's unfamiliar to your body and your mind, it can be really uncomfortable, and it will be, but that's okay. You need to understand why you're doing this. You need to walk yourself through this and work with your inner voice, which we will discuss in another episode, right? But it's really important for you to start a quest about yourself. And you can do it, like, listen, we live in a world where this kind of knowledge and information is available for free. You just need to decide and commit and know that the way is not through your mind, it's through your body. It's the way to your mind is through your body. If you improve the relationship with your body by understanding your body, how it was programmed, how it is programmed for safety, and what that safety means, and what lack of safety means for you, then you can work on your mind. Then you can work with your intrusive thoughts, with your anxiety. When you work with your body and you be in your body and you learn to do this kind of work, breathing, meditation, walking, some kind of practice when you connect with your body, the narrative in your mind will change, because, as I said many times, story follows state. When your body feels safe, then your mind feels safe. Yeah, I talk about it in my course a lot. That's actually the basis of my course. So it's not about trauma, it's just about the ABC of mental health. It's called Mechanics of Mental Health. I really encourage you to get it. It's like 2 years of therapy in 8 hours. You become an expert on why you get anxious, you understand your triggers, you understand your glimmers. It's a very unique way of working that I have cultivated with a lot of my clients, and they've had great results, and it's a very impactful way of self-realization and self-awareness, building self-awareness skills. And as you know, self-awareness is crucial. It's the most important skill, right? Thank you very much for listening. Hit the subscribe button, please. It makes a huge difference. Tell me in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. Maybe if you want my way of thinking about things, and maybe you've got an idea, maybe you have a question that I could help you with in terms of your nervous system. I'm really happy to answer those. or you can write me an email. I will try and answer it as soon as possible, because I'm really passionate about people getting better mentally. It is possible and it's doable. You can shift your mindset about this. You can really own yourself, own your state, because at the moment it's owned by some external force. We are being primed for being either anxious or depressed. That's the that's the sad truth. You are being primed for being in survival, because then you are ideal customer. You're desperate, you're anxious, so you're going to do a lot of things to soothe yourself or to feel something. That's why it's in the interest of a lot of businesses for you to be where you are. I want you to get better. I want you to get hopeful. I want you to get motivated about this work, the inner work, and I want you to know all of this stuff so you can go and live your life, because the suffering and the misery, 80% of it is unnecessary. Like, understanding yourself and knowing yourself is a superpower, right? It is your superpower to find peace and clarity, and the fog will lift. We need to lift each other, and I'm doing this in the hope that I can provide stuff for you that you can actually use. I've sat in front of a lot of human beings who were suffering, and I've helped myself. So I know it can be done through expanding consciousness about ourselves, about human condition, about the nature of the mind. So good luck, never give up on yourself, and see you next time.